Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My son is around, so you get to see him.
Hi guys.
What's your name?
Jasper.
This is Jasper. So in today's video, I'm just gonna talk about the comparison between my first pregnancy and this pregnancy. So first I'm gonna run through 5 cons, and then I'm gonna do 5 pros of going through a second pregnancy versus the first.
Mic drop mama.
Con number 1, I would say that I'm a little more anxious this pregnancy just because I kind of already been through the process and I know what to expect. I think that gives me a little more anxiety because the first time around I had no idea what to expect and I didn't know what pregnancy was like, and so I kind of just went along for the ride and enjoyed things as they happened and just dealt with things as they happened. Going through it a second time, you know what's coming and it makes you a little more anxious, I think, or at least it does for me. Okay, so for my second con, in the first pregnancy, your belly has never had a baby in it and it's never been stretched out and it's never gone through anything like that before. So I think this time around, I'm a little more nervous about my postpartum belly because of how my first pregnancy affected my belly. I wasn't even thinking about that in my first pregnancy, like how my belly would be after pregnancy, but that's something I do think about this pregnancy because I feel like my first pregnancy had a pretty significant effect on my belly. So for my third con, in your first pregnancy you have a lot more time to yourself and a lot more time to relax and take care of yourself and make sure you're doing all the stuff, but the second time around it's not that easy. You have another child to take care of, so that time you might have had to yourself is like way less. It's a lot harder to do those things during your second pregnancy than your first. All right, so my fourth con. So during your first pregnancy, all you really have to consider is how to take care of one child and the changes you have to make in your life to take care of another person. But whenever you're going through your second pregnancy, you have to consider taking care of 2 children, doing twice the amount of things that you already do for your one kid. It feels a little bit overwhelming in that sense, but yeah, it's just knowing all the things that children require and having to do all those things for 2 children now instead of just 1. All right, and so for my last con, number 5, it's a little bit harder to pick a name, in my opinion. For your first child, you hadn't picked any names out yet, so you had a lot more to choose from and you kind of just settled on your very favorite. But when it comes to naming your second child, you kind of have to at least for me, I like to compare the names of my kids and make sure they sound good together. And I'm also having a girl, so it's a little harder for me to think up girl names that I like than boy names. But yeah, those are my 5 cons of going through a second pregnancy versus going through your first pregnancy. And now I'm going to share my pros. Okay, so for my first pro, it's actually something I thought would be a con, but it turned out it's actually a pro, and that's having my 4-year-old around while I'm pregnant. I thought that would be a con because I thought I would be exhausted from being pregnant and he would just be kind of like a burden, but it actually turns out that taking care of another child keeps me distracted from my pregnancy. It's really easy for me to get caught up in like all the thoughts of being pregnant, like, oh my gosh, I'm so heavy and I'm so tired, blah, 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 blah. So having another kid around to take care of while you're going through the 9 long months of pregnancy is actually kind of a nice thing because they keep you distracted, so it kind of helps the time fly by faster. It's also really exciting talking to your first child about how they're gonna get a sibling and just looking forward to them becoming an older sibling. I just think it's gonna be so cute seeing him with a little sister. I can't imagine what that's gonna look like, but I know it's gonna make my heart explode probably. Okay, and for my second pro, so the fact that I've already been through a drug-free labor makes me a little more confident, feel more prepared, because I know from going through my first labor different ways to cope with getting through the labor and just kind of already have an idea of what it's going to be like and how to deal with it all. I'll link a video up here of me talking about my first labor and what it felt like to not have any pain medication and the ways that I coped with it. I think it's a really informative video if you want to go check it out. So for my third pro. I'm appreciative of the fact that I know how easy it is to gain weight during pregnancy and how easy it is to give in to cravings and to go through your whole pregnancy without even kind of realizing you're doing that. And then when you get to the end, you ended up gaining a good amount of weight that takes a while to get off. So having all that knowledge from my first time around, it's easier this time around to avoid all that extra weight and to just stick to choosing more healthy options when I'm having cravings. I would much rather avoid gaining the weight in the first place than having to worry about trying to get it off after the fact. I actually just finished making a video about how I'm staying healthy during this pregnancy and still satisfying all my cravings, but in a way that doesn't cause me to gain a bunch of extra weight. So if you're interested in watching that, I will link it up here. And for my fourth pro, I know that I'm a lot better prepared this time for dealing with a newborn and everything that newborns bring to the table. My first time around, I had zero idea what to expect when it came to taking care of newborns. I just didn't expect a little baby to require that much of a lifestyle change as it did. It was kind of shocking to me when my son Jasper got here because I was like, wow, newborns require a lot of attention. But this time I know exactly what to expect, so I am better prepared in just mentally preparing myself for what's coming, and also techniques I learned during the first go around with a newborn to make it a little bit easier. And then for my fifth and last pro, I already have pretty much everything I need for a newborn. I saved a bunch of the stuff that I used for my son, and so I don't really have to buy anything new. There's a couple things I need to get, but I have like all the baby clothes I need and the swaddles and the bottles and swaddles and the bottles. I'm just kidding. If you haven't watched my mom raps, you should definitely do that. I'll link those up here. But anyways, so yeah, I just have like a bunch of newborn equipment that you have to go out and stock up on when you're having your first baby. I don't really have to do that because I have a lot of leftover stuff. So yeah, if you're going through a first or second pregnancy, I would love to hear from you in the comments, or if you have any questions, leave a comment below and I will totally get back to you. Make sure you join me on Monday for my next pregnancy update, and make sure you go check out my mom raps because they're really funny and I love making them for all the awesome mamas. Thanks guys for watching. See you next time. Bye.
It's Mic Drop Mama on the beat. Can't you feel the heat? It's Mic Drop Mama here to speak. Won't you take a seat? It's Mic Drop Mama on the beat.
It's Mic Drop Mama here to speak. Don't take a seat.